Hey guys, Bugcat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, July 12th, 2024, and I'd like to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research 2 channel here on YouTube. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much. Alright guys, well, it's time to talk about UFOs again, and if you're a previous subscriber, you're going to know exactly what I'm going to talk about pretty much, but maybe not so much as any way I presented it before, because it's about some thoughts and observations that I have about UFOs from the various reports and lectures and things I've heard over the years. But I more or less came to this conclusion on my own by listening to various reports about UFOs. You know, one being one of the very first ones, the one at the harbor there, I guess in Washington State, where in 1947, when this guy was a harbor master and he was aboard his boat with his son and his dog, and they saw like 8 UFOs, all of them in a ring, with one in the center that was having some sort of issue, and it dropped this slag and other sort of newspaper-like metal fragments down that rained down on this boat there and killed his dog and broke his son's arm or whatever. So some sort of slag they determined or something like that. And just from that alone, you know, sort of made me think that this didn't seem like to be like spacecraft, you know, with this slag coming out of it and everything. It sounds to me like it's, you know, defecating or vomiting or something like that. And I think that was really like the second one that sort of would help convince me. But really the first one was the Japanese airliner there report on the West Coast. It was going up, I guess, the coast of like Washington State or something like that, from California, LAX or something like that. So he reported that this thing was flying, this huge thing was in front of his aircraft doing 600 miles and matching his speed exactly, maintaining a set distance from the front of the nose of the aircraft. And it looked like a tortoise shell to him, or a walnut shell, something like that. That's what it looked like to him. So, you know, frequently you see an artist rendition, it looks like a giant walnut. But it also had the 2 smaller ones with it. So this one large one is flying in front of it, and these 2 smaller ones that were with it were flying around and around, doing loop-de-loops around the aircraft, you know, terrifying the passengers and the crew there. So I think it was that one that really convinced me. I said, this thing sounds to me like a mother with 2 young, bringing it down to, to play around with some prey animal, like a cat brings a mouse back, and lets their young play with it for a while to, give them their hunting skills and whatnot. That's what it sounded like to me. And from like that moment on, I sort of suspect that these things were alive. I think that UFO sighting was corroborated by another commercial airline, if I'm not mistaken, and they retired that Japanese pilot after that because he was rather unstable after that sighting, so they didn't let him fly again, I believe. But that's what gave me the idea that these things might be alive. But just hold your horses. I'm sure that anybody who stumbled across this video or is a new subscriber or something like that saying, what's this all about? It's just UFOs are alive? Yeah, well, when Mike from Conflict Radio and his partner there interviewed me and I said that I thought that they were alive, Mike was shocked. He was like, what are you trying to say? They're something that's living? I said, yeah. But this is not my original idea, even though I came up with it sort of on my own anyway. But as soon as I started to suspect it, every report to me seemed like these things were exhibiting some sort of animal behavior. The one from Washington there, they're protecting a member of their herd or society or whatever, while the thing was having some sort of, medical issue or whatever it is, and it need to release this stuff, and the mother bringing the siblings down there to play around with the airplane there. I mean, with the tortoise shell and the walnut shell, So anyway, I'm not the original person who come up with this idea. Charles Fort of the infamous 40 times that you see right here thought that they were living things, okay? Wilhelm Reich, another guy, okay, super intelligent guy who got a bad rap. They let him die in prison because of all the sexual stuff that he's talking about and all this kind of stuff. He's talking about a guy who came up with this in the 1940s and 1950s and early 60s or whatever, where people were still quite prudish about, nakedness and sex and all this kind of stuff like that. So, they just gave this guy, they wanted to get this guy out of the picture for some reason, okay? Because I believe that the government knows what these things are, and I think they don't believe that they're spacecraft or spaceships either. They know exactly what they are. Okay, they know exactly that they're living things that live in space. And you have Trevor James Constable here, finally from New Zealand, who wrote several books about it. The first one being in the late 40s, They Live in the Sky. Okay, and then another book later on in the 50s called The Cosmic Pulse. I think it was 50s or early 60s. The Cosmic Pulse of Life, which this is an illustration from, and Wikipedia gives him a bad rap. If you go to Wikipedia, he took these infrared, these photos with infrared film in the, vacant atmosphere and found these blobs in there. They said it was, defects on the film and, over and over again. So, in any case, plenty of people got cameras and took pictures with film and did no defects or anything like that. So, anyway, he called them atmospheric organisms, and in his first book, They Live in the Sky, he called those things atmospheric organisms, but he called this thing, like you see right here, which is not a blob, in the atmosphere here, he called these things sky beasts. That's what he called them. Okay, so I'm not the originator of this idea. It's an old idea, and if you know anything about UFO lore, you're going to know about these things. So people who claim that they, know about UFOs and all that kind of stuff don't know anything about this. It's never discussed. You never hear it on Coast to Coast. You never see it or hear anything about it on YouTube except for my channel here. Okay? And I have a lot of reasons and present some possible evidence or circumstantial evidence that support these guys' theory about it. I'm continuing, their aspect of this sort of research here because nobody else is doing it. Okay? And I feel like I'm obligated to do it because it's what I believe. So, and they gave their reasons why too. So anyway, one of the things about UFOs, they have no eyes, evidently, okay? So they don't look like bugs, per se, and have eyes. And nobody ever reported these things having eyes. A lot of lights, a lot of windows, and all this kind of stuff. But never reports of eyes on these things or anything. So they probably don't see with, the sort of mechanical eyesight that we have. Somehow they see in other ways, and so it's awful hard to navigate around with eyesight. But what else can navigate without eyesight? Well, we have plenty of animals here that can navigate without eyesight, and they do a fine job of it. All of these creatures here, I'm going to talk about one in a second. All of these creatures navigate their environment and survive. And they're predatory, most of them, and they have to be successful predators to survive. And it's just interesting to me how some Brazilian think tank sent a report to Dave Paulides saying that, in Missing 411, they're saying that after their analysis of it, they believed that these things were exhibiting predatory behavior. Okay, so predatory behavior refers to animal behavior. Okay? If you're talking about, you know, creatures, little green men and reptilians that are in spaceships or whatever, you know, predatory behavior doesn't really fit the bill. You know, maybe, conquering behavior, whatever, something like that. But, predatory behavior, they're predatory. So anyway, they came up with that report. It was sort of in an animal sense that they were making this assertion. So, all right, so one of the things, most of the times that you hear the reports about UFOs is that sometimes they make for the most part, they don't make any noise at all. That's what's mostly reported about UFOs, is that there's absolutely no sound whatsoever. Okay, but I've heard in several reports, either on Dave Paulides when he talks about UFOs, or Beyond Creepy, or Peter Davenport from the National UFO Center there, up in Washington State or Canada, wherever he's at, that some people have reported, some people who have had these sightings have reported that these things were emitting a hum. Okay, and in some instances, they said it was not like a mechanical hum, more like a electrical hum. Okay, so what do we have here that hums? Oh, hummingbirds, but that's from the mechanical noise of their wings beating that they make a hum. We hum, but other than that, other than a machine humming, that's the humming of a machine, okay? But a humming of a machine and an electrical hum have very distinct sounds. So it was reported a couple of times that it sounded like electrical humming to them. So we know that power lines emit a humming sound, and I know it quite well because I used to take the train to my buddy's house out east here on Long Island and walk frequently from the train station to his house. It was only a couple of miles. And people say, well, that's so far. It isn't. Not for me, master hiker here. I used to hike 6 to 10 miles in the mountains every day. I did it for 6 months. One day I hiked 20 miles. So, if anything ever happens in this world, I feel sorry for you guys if you're not long distance walkers, because I'll be seeing you then. But so I would walk past this substation here, the Long Island Power Authority here on Long Island here in New York. That's the name of the company that does all our power here. And so I would walk past this substation, and it would be this huge power line that went into the ground over there, and then I guess went into the substation over there. And, from the overhead wiring, then down a telephone pole or power pole into the substation there. And as I passed by, I could hear it clearly humming, from this high voltage electrical current that was running through it. I could hear it clearly. They say it's, very low hum. I say, yeah, it's low, I guess. I don't know. I could hear it pretty clearly as I was walking by just a couple of feet from it. So these things are emitting some sort of humming sound. Well, it could quite possibly be because of what type of life forms they are. I believe they're silicon-based life forms. How else could they tolerate such intense high energies, unless they were silicon-based life form? Like anything silicon, you put silicon in the oven, of course, if you heat up hot enough, it's gonna melt, but it has a high tolerance, like, certain kind of cookware and stuff have high tolerance to high temperatures. Many other things made out of silica do too, but they're probably silicon-based life forms. So, okay, so they're emitting some sort of hum periodically, some sort of electrical hum. Well, that's hardly surprising since they're masses of gravity, and gravity has something to do with electrical phenomena. Okay, and if you say, no, but people at the Thunderbolts Project do, and they have a lot of highly tenured academics there to support their work and everything else. So Let me just read you what it says here. Power lines can make a humming noise, also known as corona discharge or corona effect, when the electrical field around the power lines is stronger than the air's ability to start an electrical current. This can happen in different weather conditions as water increases in the air's conductivity. Most modern power lines are designed to prevent this issue, especially during dry weather. Okay, so that's what they say here. Corona discharge or corona effect. Okay, so just to add to it here, okay, so they say it here as well. As you type in different searches in here, come up with different stuff. So here it says high voltage power lines can make a humming sound, also known as corona discharge or effect, when the electrical field around the lines is stronger than the air's breakdown strength. So you would have to know more about physics to know about that. I'm not going to get into it here, but look what it says here. This discharge can also cause a visible glow, radio noise, and energy loss. Isn't that interesting? A visual glow. These things are luminescent. Some are completely luminescent. Some are just have these lights on them, or series of lights on them, and other things. Okay, right? These UFOs and UAPs causes radio noise. Okay, noise on the radio from it. Okay, like your AM signals are affected by electrical discharge, right? And energy loss. That's very interesting. Like how a UFO causes vehicles to lose power and all this kind of stuff. So, it's just interesting what they're saying here, right? Just that the UFOs are humming with an electrical hum in these accounts, and what these eyewitnesses say. And okay, so just I'm giving you these facts. Okay, you make a bit what you want. You don't want to believe that they're living things, whatever, or whether they're spacecraft or not. They're emitting this hum, and this is what the hum is from power lines happening. Okay, if you believe that these things are some kind of life form, can harness the kind of energy that can travel through the atmosphere and space without making any sounds or anything like that, or low hum or something like that, then they would have to be. They can't be carbon-based life forms like us, who burn to a crisp with the energy source that they need internally to drive them. Okay, we've talked about other creatures on the planet here that have all kinds of gears in them and types of propulsion systems and all kind of stuff. The animals on this planet are absolutely amazing, and human beings are amazingly lame for the most part. Okay, yeah, we got decent eyesight and decent hearing, but not like the animals. Not like to the 1,000th degree or something, like a dog or something that can smell from miles away. We can't do any of that stuff. We are the lamest animals on earth. So anyway, all right, so this is one thing about them. Okay, so the hum that people often report just made me thought, electrical hum. Okay, so what examples can we find of it? Well, you got the example right here, and it's telling you right here what it can cause. Visible glow, radio noise, and energy loss. That's totally relatable to UFOs. You see, here's some power lines emitting a glow. It's often at the contact points that these glows happen. You see how it is, how these things are glowing here. This is all part of this corona discharge or effect that's going on here. Okay, so make a note of that. Okay, so another thing that they report with the UFOs, just periodically, every once in a while, but I've heard several reports like this, where the UFOs make a sputtering noise. Okay, when you hear about sputtering, engine sputter, here's a gas stove sputtering. Okay, it's when the fuel mixture, whatever fuel it is starting to diminish, So it burns off at different rates and all kind of stuff. So one day I'll give an example. I'll do a little experiment here because there's no examples of it on YouTube or on the internet of flame sputtering. But we all know about flame sputtering, okay? But this is electrical sputtering, okay? So here's a guy with a plasma cutter here. This nice fellow, Pete's Tools from New Zealand or Australia or something like that. And this is for educational purposes, Pete. Just want to give an example. Okay, put my disclaimer in the description here for educational purposes only.
See that, guys?
Okay, so there's Pete from Pete's Tools giving us an example about his plasma cutter and how it's sputtering. Okay, so I've often heard reports about UFO sputtering, and here's a guy with a plasma torch sputtering, completely electrical sputtering. Okay, and there's all sorts of things on electrical sputtering. It's used in production to surface materials. Here's a definition of sputter here. It's interesting what the flame sputters out. Okay, flame sputtering, and you have this electrical sputtering. Okay, and here's an article in Wikipedia that doesn't talk about flame sputtering at all, even though the topic here is sputtering. They show it in physics here. Try to explain it. You can read it if you like. Here's electronic sputtering. Okay, potential sputtering. Okay, in electricity. All right, etching and chemical sputtering. This is a process used for etching or coating, and the applications of it. So I'm just showing you that this electrical sputtering is something that's real, and it occurs with different things here. And this is the kind of sputtering that I believe these people are hearing, this electrical sputtering from these creatures who are able to harness some sort of electromagnetic field to more or less, oppose gravity somehow, and are masters of it. Okay, but they hear sputtering, okay, and I'm thinking to myself, electrical sputtering, and I've heard it. I'm a low voltage technician for 20 plus years, before my current job here, and I've heard this kind of sputtering many times before, okay, this electrical sputtering. So these things are also sputtering, so they're humming like high voltage electrical lines, and they're sputtering like electrical devices and circuits sputter. Okay, like the welder there was sputtering there. Okay, the plasma torch there sputtering. So I'm just relating this to what these sounds could possibly be being caused by, something that's occurring on these UFOs to cause these sounds. Otherwise, they're completely silent most of the time, but once in a while, they're humming and sputtering. So what can I think of that hums and sputters here with this sort of electrical sound? Well, we know all about electrical hum and electrical sputter, and I challenge anybody, go buy a high voltage power line and take a listen, and you could hear that thing humming. So the amount of energy that these things need to harness to travel through our atmosphere and through space and all kind of stuff, or travel as fast as they do and all kind of stuff, must be huge amounts of energy to be able to do that. So with huge amount of energy sort of regulated by some living creature or whatever, I'm sure all this kind of sputtering and humming is going on when these things are either powering down or whatever it is. They're coming into position or whatever. When these people witness these things because they're going slow enough or traveling slowing up or stationary when they're emitting these sounds. And you could check it out for yourself. Listen to a bunch of UFO reports. You're going to come into it sooner or later, because I have many times already. So, okay, but most of the time they're not making any sound at all. But when they do, they're making these electrical sounds. Okay, so some silicon-based life form, our system is electrical too. It's most living things on this planet, and they talk about it too. Can animals see the magnetic field, but can they see electrical auras or, electrical fields that other creatures emanate? They don't talk about it, but they're talking about this magnetoreception for migratory reasons and directional purposes that animals have, which is incredible skill that they have. How do they do that? They're still trying to figure out. This is what they suppose, but there's no other way that they could be doing this. So, but they don't talk about people, animals able to sense electrical fields. And I'm just going to go down here real quick to this animal here, which also can be found, I believe, in Australia or New Zealand or something like that. Oh no, this is a European cave. The a European cave-dwelling salamander, has amazed scientists with its adaptive skills. Not needing eyes in its dark environment, the uses special senses to get around, including a sense that can detect electricity. Okay, so now we're getting more into how these creatures can see us. Okay, they have no eyes or whatever, but they can sense us through electrical fields and our brain activity, apparently because of what David Paulides found out about the GHB. Okay, and these people are being paralyzed by GHB. Okay, because a couple of the parents of these missing ones that were found deceased with no apparent cause of death didn't test for any drugs or poisons or anything like that, the average ones that they test for or whatnot. But the parents of some of these victims paid to have private autopsies done, and they found a high level of GHB in their systems. Okay, so it's made naturally by our brain, right? So, but what is it about GHB here that seems more interesting? Let's see. Okay. Oh shit. There it is. Okay. So let's just see what it says here about GHB. The way you feel when you take GHB is similar to the way some people feel when they drink alcohol. At a low dose, users usually feel more sociable, less inhibited, and lightheaded. A slightly higher dose intensifies the effects or makes you drowsy and dizzy. A little more may cause nausea and vomiting, and a higher dose can make you slip into a deep sleep. An overdose can result in difficulty breathing, a lowered heart rate, convulsions, and even death. Okay, so if somebody died from a GHB overdose, and all coroners around the United States here are just meant to test for the usual drugs and everything, you would never know what the cause of death was. Okay, so I guess some coroners are doing this test now, maybe, but Dave Paulides says that they don't. Okay, So let's go on and see what the rest of it says here. With GHB, there is only a slight difference between a dose that produces the desired effects and a dose that puts the user at risk. If you have a little too much GHB, the consequences can be fatal. GHB can also cause, get this, confusion, unusual and disturbing thoughts, and depression. Okay, so let's say for a moment that whatever sort of energy these things are using to disable people, to paralyze them, okay, so because you frequently hear about people being paralyzed by these UFOs, okay, so, and what better thing to paralyze you than GHB, right? Because that's what the effects of the drug. You're sort of conscious, but you can't move your body at all or anything like that. Even it makes you feel lightheaded and less inhibited, but apparently it also makes you go into sort of paralysis. So if these things are producing this paralysis in people by creating exorbitant amounts of GHB, okay, two things here. They're causing confusion, unusual and disturbing thoughts. Well, hence all of these abduction stories. So when you hear it reported on by, they go out of their way to dismiss it as these people are, they're suffering from sleep paralysis. So therefore, there's no abduction going on or anything like that. They're just suffering from sleep paralysis. Okay, so that's the mainstream denial of the story. Okay, so what the alternative side is saying is that the UFOs are paralyzing them and then abducting them and taking them somewhere else. And I'm saying that they're both wrong. Okay, what I'm saying is that these things is creating GHB, inordinate amounts of GHB in these people, and they're having confusion and unusual and disturbing thoughts. Okay, that have to go along with abduction, etc., etc. Because these things are inside their body, inside their brain. They're having effect, okay? And I'm going to call it like the old Star Trek mind meld, okay? A telepathic union between two beings. But it's not fictional because now you have people talking about it seriously, like this is what happens to people, okay? So you have dictionaries here that say a process of exchanging and combining two or more people's ideas or thought processes, a brainstorm, okay? So that's one definition of it, okay? So here's an Urban Dictionary. The phenomena that occurs when two individuals are online chat and type the same exact or nearly exact thing simultaneously, named after Star Trek's Mr. Spock's mind meld. Okay, so here's your dictionary mind meld definition and meaning: a state of deep compatibility in opinion or plans between two people. Okay, so I'm just showing you the different ways that people are sort of perceiving this thing, where us as electromagnetic beings ourselves are able to do this. It's just done the old-fashioned way. When two people work close together, they learn how to understand each other. Okay, so maybe it's as simple as that. Okay, mind fusion, mind touch, blah 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 blah. They did this on Farscape as well with Zan, the priestess there, and how she does a similar thing in Farscape. Yeah, that's Spock does. So, in any case, what I'm trying to say is that these things are somehow they are irritating or aggravating the spot in our brain that creates this GHB, and in enormous quantities. And not only is it making people believe that they're being abducted because of this thing. And part of this is probably part of their communication. They have no mouths, or even the lights. If they have no eyes, they can't. So they can only sense them maybe. And if they were lights, how could they tell what color? They have no eyes. So, just something that they do that is not useful to them. They don't have eyes, but they can sense electromagnetic fields like many of the organisms with no eyes that I just showed on that site there. Many of the animals on that page there have no eyes and navigate through this world completely fine. They're predators. They survive, so don't need eyes to survive. So, and navigate, not at all. It's done with all sorts of other things that they sense. Because those senses become heightened without eyes. So anyways, this is what I believe that happened to like Betty and Barney Hill. They never left their car. Anybody else reported some guy was on a plane and some guy was in his house, and they're not going anywhere. These things are invading their minds, whatever. Yes, people do get abducted and killed, physically abducted and killed, but many people get out of their cars, maybe compelled by the creature somehow. This is part of their hunting strategy, hunting tools and hunting strategy, to get out of the car where they're abducted then or whatever. And then some of these people is that this energy wave that they use to get inside people's heads to create the GHB and everything is just switching these people off. It's just they're turning these people off because they're electrically based life forms. They're turning people off like a light switch. All they have to do is make our brain produce enough GHB, and we shut off like a light switch, and there's no cause of death reported by coroners and all kind of stuff. So that's what Dave Paulides is missing, that these things are displaying predatory behavior because they're animals, and they're using their, whatever weapons they have, whatever tools they have to hunt their prey on us. But they're very intelligent, like orcas or something like that, and so they can make more of what's in our minds than we think, right? We're completely intelligent on a level where they can understand everything we think. Okay, so that's what I believe is happening to these people. Okay, they're being probed by these things. They create their GHB. They get confused and have these disturbing thoughts and all kind of stuff like that, but they're never leaving their bed, their car. If they're still in their car, never get out of it, And I think that's what the problem is. These people who are disappear with David Paulides in their cars or whatever, they're often their driver's side window is open, like they're trying to look at something. Okay, if you think it's something on the ground, you're probably not going to open your window. But if you see something in the sky that doesn't make any sense, you might open your window. Okay, and not only that, you might get out to take a better look at it, and then you're done. Because these creatures are just going to grab you up. They may have appendages that we don't know about that come out of their shells, their bodies or whatever, and grab people, have physically grab people. It seems like it because their shoes are off and their socks and their pants, they're only left with their shirts on or no clothes at all. They're like playing around with us like we're dolls or something like that, dropping us, paralyzing us with the GHB and their, energy beam or field or whatever it is, and dropping us on our heads or dropping us in the ocean or pulling us into space or whatever it is. They're dangerous. That's what Dave Paulides is trying to get across. They're dangerous, and if you want to believe there are grays in there and all this kind of stuff, I feel sorry for you, because that's the mainstream thing on it. And even the government's their denials are entertaining it. So they know what it is. They know these things are animals that live in space, and they may have been created right here when people were messing around with bioengineering in the past, like with corn, for example. Okay, so that's what I think is going on here. And, here's the corona. If you type in the wrong thing, corona affect instead of effect, you get all this thing on corona. But don't do that. So what's a biomechanoid here? And in here, they mention Farscape Project and the Farscape Encyclopedia Project, Bio-Mechanoid life forms composed of both natural biological tissue and non-biological technological components to create a complete cybernetic whole. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about here as far as biomechanoid. Okay, it's a real term. It hasn't been adopted into mainstream, but it will, eventually, whatever. So that's what these things are, biomechanoids. Okay, so, and here's some Giger art. Look at this thing right here. It shows like one of these giant, alien guys on it all, or, alien form here. So it looks like a spaceship. All right. Where do these ideas come from? They're in our minds. Whatchamacallit, the basic type form is in our minds already, and this is the kind of things we're thinking about based on something that we're clearly coming into contact with. At least a certain portion of our population is. This is the archetype for us. So that's what I think is going on here with the GHB, the paralyzing, the abduction stories, everything. Neither side has it right. They both have part of it right and none of it right at the same time. But what's right is these things are producing the GHB, like Dave Politis found out with Missing 411. And they're doing it with their tools or weapons that they use because they're predatory and they're animals. Okay, so what makes me think so much that these things are animals? Okay, so let's take a look at some classic UFO types and classic UFO shapes. Here's some right here. You can see what they look like. See what they all look like here, these various shapes. Okay, here's some more here for you. Okay, some of them are, you have to watch out for the fictional ones, but these ones are describing real UFO types that were either illustrated or recorded or photographed. Okay, you're looking at these things right here. Take a good look. All right, here's another picture for you. All right, you see this right here? All right, I want you to take a look at this. You see this right here? All right, these are diatoms. All right, so you've heard of the diatoms living in the vast oceans on Earth. Okay, well, you see, folks, these things right here are living in the vast ocean of space. And what size are they going to grow to in the vast ocean of space? Little diatoms here, almost microscopic things here, right, in the vast oceans here on Earth. Okay, do you see any similarities here? Look at these things right here, these diatoms. Okay, they look like they were made in a factory. Okay, they almost look like machines. Okay, they look like they were made in a machine shop. What aren't you getting about this? This is what I want to know. Okay, I'm trying to show you this. I'm trying to give you the straight dope on UFOs and UAPs and all kind of stuff like that. Get with the program, folks. There's no such thing as spacecraft and little green men coming from anywhere. Okay, these things either live in space as a result of being born right here on Earth, or this is one of their spawning places. Why wouldn't it be? So many other animals swimming, like water too, right? Because they can navigate in water, USOs, right? Okay, so just put all these things together in your head. This is not a coincidence. I hate to tell you. As above, so below. Right? Okay, take a good look, folks. All right. We're talking about living creatures here, folks. We're not talking about spaceships and spacecraft with little green men. There's no such thing. There's no proof of it. Anything anybody ever saw was because of this. Alright? Confusion, unusual, and disturbing thoughts. Okay? Nobody's getting abducted and operated on and everything. At least what I can see, and Dave Bly says there's no mutilation going on with humans. There's never been any reports of humans being mutilated, only animals and stuff. Okay? But they're always missing their clothes. They're always played around with like they're a doll. They take, their shoes are missing, their socks are missing, their pants are missing, their shirts are missing. Some of it's all folded up and everything. Who knows how intelligent these things are? And I think they have faces and mouths and everything. It's just they're concealed below. Like some beetles' wings are concealed below their heavy, exoskeleton covers. You can see on beetles that can fly. They have covers for their wings. When they open the covers up, the wings come out. Okay, when the UFOs open up whatever portion of their base or mouth are there, they probably have appendages. These things are probably closer to diatoms or insects of some sort, because insects are biomechanical with their exoskeletons and everything. Okay, take a good look, folks. The vast oceans of Earth, the vast oceans of space. Okay? But look at all the windows on there, and look at all those things sticking out of them, and look at this, and look at that. Yeah, I'm looking right at it. But they're not UFOs now, are they? They're living creatures. Made to look like machine-made things. Look at some of these things. Nature makes this. Okay? So let's hear a little something about diatoms. What else does it say? Let's see with this article right here. I just want to say... Okay, diatoms are unicellular algae with golden brown photosynthetic pigments. They have a siliceous skeleton known as frustule that comprise two halves. One overlaps the other like the two pieces of a petri dish. The frustule is ornamented with pores, processes, spines, hyaline areas, and other features. The size ranges between 1 to 200 micromillimeters in length. So they're very tiny and small, and because they exist in the vast oceans of Earth. Okay, so what does they mean by siliceous? Okay, these have siliceous skeletons known as frustule. What's that mean? Okay, what's siliceous mean? Siliceous, containing or consisting of silica, silicon-based life forms. You see, who are using photosynthesis. Okay, or photosynthesis is electrical. Okay. These things are using light as well. Okay. So, a photon. Okay. Photons and electrons and neutrons and all kind of stuff. These are like, how else could they defy gravity? But because they're silicon-based life form, they have these other attributes of light or electricity or whatever it might be. Okay? But, folks, I'm trying to tell you, these things are living creatures that live in space, can travel through the atmosphere and through the oceans here on Earth. They're, as I frequently say, and I put in the comments in Dave Politis or anywhere else that they talk about UFOs, they are living creatures who are bioluminescent, bioelectrical, and biomechanical, just like creatures right down here on Earth. Okay? Here's all my evidence, folks, about why these things are alive. Show me all the evidence other than people's accounts of them being paralyzed and being abducted and operated on, okay, by something or rather. Okay, if these silicon-based life forms are eating anything, they're probably eating something more silicon-based or eating other species of biomechanoids that are space, inhabiting biomechanoids, okay? Or they're eating, non-carbon type things here on our planet. Maybe they're eating silicon. They say that all this sand is missing. That somehow they associated the missing sand with UFOs and don't know why. I'm trying to tell you why. And then this slag comes out of it. They probably have to ditch all the metals as they consume, whatever materials that they're consuming to drive propel their engines, their built-in motors and whatnot. Just like creatures here on Earth have built-in motors. They're biomechanical. Okay? They have, gears in them and stuff like that. How'd that happen? Okay? And you look at these things right here. So, look, folks, I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to give you a clue. All right? None of those rabbit holes are correct. None of them. There's no little green man or big eye gray guys or reptilians and all kind of stuff like that. They're screwing around with people's minds and creating all kinds of havoc with creating GHB in people's systems that are found in people that we know about, okay, through Dave Politis and the people who had actual autopsies done on their children or loved ones or whatever it is and found these excesses of GHB, but no GHB to be found. They drank at the bar, nobody's around them, and who's going to give somebody, it's a date rape drug, somebody want to rape the guys? Other guys, I guess, or whatever. How are you going to do that? Did you fall down and, paralyzed in the club right there if they're feeding it in their drinks and whatnot? So, come on now, right? So they're creating this GHB, they're paralyzing people, the mainstream thinks it's sleep paralysis, other people, alternative think they're being abducted after they're paralyzed and everything, and I'm telling you, they never leave where they are, because they end up right back where they started all the time, right? Other than the people who are really abducted, like the ones in Dave Politis, who are walking out in the open air, on trails and streets and all kind of stuff like that, I want to know if the UFOs are abducting people from densely, forested area where it's, hard to get at, not like on a trail. There's an opening generally. If there's a trail, well, there can't be anything growing there, so something can get right in there. So, or the streets or whatever it is, but, in high, dense foliage and stuff, they're getting kidnapped from there? I don't think so. They're in the open air where they can be detected, and easy to get to by these things, these creatures that live in space, these biomechanoids, because that's what I believe they are. Alright, guys, so I just want to impart these thoughts and observations to you. You can make up your own mind about it, but I'm going to keep promoting this idea because that's what these guys did. Okay? And their voices are not being heard. They're being left out. Okay? They're being ignored. They're being suppressed on purpose. Alright? The government knows that they're living creatures, And they love for you to go chasing down all these rabbit holes. Time machines, spaceships, spacecrafts, little green man and gray man and reptilians and all that kind of stuff like that. No, they came in contact with them. No. They had GHB created at high levels in their heads, and they had all sorts of weird confusion and unusual and disturbing thoughts. Okay? And after one happens, it just snowballs. Because everybody who encounters a UFO and is paralyzed is going to say the same thing. They already have a preconceived notion about what's going to happen to them. They're going to be operated on. And while they're in this paralyzed state, and who knows whatever other state, all right, they're confused, they're having disturbing thoughts and all kind of stuff like that in their bed. They're thinking they're being manhandled by these creatures or whatever. I'm not saying that they can't emit. I say some of these particles of metal that they find these people say is, something put in there by the UFO, the little green man, I guess, or whatever. It's just these things are living creatures, so they could probably be shedding something, or rather like defecating or vomiting, or just byproduct of their fuel consumption or whatever it might be. So think about it all, folks. Okay, I want to end it here, and I want to promote this idea that UFOs are living things. And hey, if you believe something else, I really feel sorry for us. So many people cannot make this step, no matter what I say, all right, because they've just been listening to it for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years about how there's spaceships and all kind of stuff like that. And I'm saying that's an old 20th century idea. Get with the program, folks, all right? This is what they are. I'd stake my life on it. All right, that's how firmly I believe. After all the things I've researched and done and heard and blah, 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 blah. I've been doing this for a long time on my other channel as well as my new channel here. So I'm going to keep doing it because nobody else is. And I just wonder why. Why is that? Isn't it interesting? Don't you find it fascinating? I know Mike and his buddy there on Conflict Radio did. They found that fascinating. So why isn't anybody talking about it? They write a lot of books, and whoever it is, whether it's the L.A. Marzulis of Giants and, other people who write about the stone walls or, write about UFOs, it's all baloney. Complete baloney. Okay? And they already have preconceived notions about it in their minds and a completely biased look at everything, okay? All right, here's somebody whose mind has changed to more along the lines of Charles Fort, Wilhelm Reich, and Trevor James Constable. All right, there's not many of us, and I'm one of them. These guys aren't around anymore, but I'm here. All right, and this is what I'm promoting. All right, I feel sorry for you if you believe anything else. You're wrong. So, you gotta stop going down these rabbit holes that the government's provided for you. The people at the top who are not compartmentalized, who are looking down at 30,000 feet from the UFO's perspective and all kind of stuff, understand everything. These other guys who are compartmentalized, whether they be fighter pilots or whoever it is, they be told anything. They're only seeing one small aspect of this whole picture. And here I am trying to provide some other aspects of it that you never heard about. All right, guys, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Please do like, please do subscribe, and I'll be back next week with a video for you, I'm sure. All right, guys, anyway, Budcat7 signing out. Peace.